Okay, we're going to get started. Today we are discussing session 12, Intentional Planning and Embedded Learning Opportunities, or ELOs. And my name is Alicia Boston. I am the Center Director for Bright Horizons at Greenwood Plaza. And we are obviously in a new environment down here in the classroom this session. So thank you for being so flexible. We want to say a special thank you to our Pyramid Plus funders, both current and past, without which Pyramid Plus would not be the program that it is, the strong program that it is today. So a thank you to our Pyramid Plus funders. All right. Today I'm going to go over the learning objectives and the logistics with you. We're going to talk about some building blocks and the framework around that. We're going to have some embedded instruction. We're going to have a child classroom activity matrix. We're going to do a complete learning trial. We're going to talk about some teaching strategies. We have an activity that's called the Embedded Learning Opportunities, so a chance for you to work on one. And we're going to talk about data collection and progress monitoring. We'll wrap up with our activity thought seeds and our Q&I for the day. Okay? So today's learning objectives are that participants will learn the steps and procedures to implement embedded instruction, the what, the when, and the how. We're going to learn various methods for teaching new skills. And we're going to learn that embedded instruction occurs throughout daily routines and across environments. Participants will gain some data collection tools to track their progress. Okay. So we have, as always, we do have our ground rules in the back of the room today. But remember that that is a living document, so if there's anything that we want to add to that, we can. And in addition to the ground rules is also the parking lot. So you can access any opportunity for questions, any opportunity to expand on a topic by adding that to the parking lot list. Okay? You do have a copy of your handouts, and with your handouts there's going to be, we're going to have the data matrix, the collection form. There are some really great handouts that I gave you as well that is tips for teachers as well too. Okay? We know where the bathroom is now located down the hallway. Also coffee station if you need a pick-me-up this afternoon, and if there's a need for water or anything like that. We will have two 10-minute breaks. We have a small group today, so our group discussion won't take up nearly as much time, but that ultimately, what I like is with small groups, it'll probably be an opportunity for us to have a deeper conversation and a little more in-depth. So session 12 starts to pull us up to the top of that pyramid. Now we're hitting the targeted social emotional supports and intensive interventions. And remember that while the topic that we were talking about with Pyramid Plus approach, there are also resources with building blocks, LEAP, and other evidence-based practices that will help to support today's learning. Okay? The areas of focusing, this is the building blocks framework, and it's a model of the tiers within the level 2 of the pyramid targeted social emotional support. So back here, inside of this tier, this is the levels of the tiers inside of that, okay? So we're going to talk about some child-focused instructional strategies, embedded learning opportunities, and curriculum modifications and adaptations. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. We're going to talk about embedded instruction. Right? So embedded instruction, it's intentional. It's sufficient. It's a systematic learning opportunity during everyday routines and activities and transitions. Okay, it's built into the schedule. Research shows that the information about embedded instruction, it's all supported. So it's true for all children, infancy through preschool and beyond. Okay, so when we talk about it embedded instruction, we're identifying times and activities when instructional procedures for teaching a child's priority learning targets are implemented in ongoing activities in the classroom, at home, or in other settings. And we talked a little bit about that in session 11, where when we talked about the goals that we want to see in a classroom, but also at home as well, too. Okay. When we embed the instruction, we're increasing engagement, we're increasing participation and independence. And it's feasible for caregivers to use in ongoing activities, routines, and transitions. We're going to watch a lot of videos today, so you're going to see a lot of what we do on a consistent routine basis is a lot of that embedded learning. But when we are working for a specific goal, this will help us to build that embedded learning in a specific time frame in the classroom within our schedules. Okay? Research shows that it's effective, embedded instruction is effective to give children new skills. It's an efficient strategy for increasing engagement, participation, independence. It promotes generalization and maintenance of newly learned skills, makes it feasible for teachers to use in ongoing activities, routines, and transitions. And when we're looking at the outcome of the embedded learning opportunities with children, you're going to be the children are going to display that by looking, listening. There's going to be participation, both motor and verbal. Okay? Research findings show that embedded instruction is effective for teaching a variety of valued skills to young children. A variety of instructional strategies have been embedded effectively, and embedded instruction seems to enhance generalization. So evidence-based. So here we have a table that describes the demographics of the participants in a study on embedded instructions. And it was conducted by Susan Sandel, an author of Building Blocks. And so you can see that in the column on the left, we have the number of children we have participating in the embedded learning instruction. And then in table number 2, we have the number of embedded learning instructional objectives by domain. Okay? And Pyramid Plus approach focuses on social emotional goals. However, this study indicates that embedded learning instructions is effective for goals across various domains. So the results of this data shows that 63 students and children participated, and that variety of objectives were taught, everything from cognitive, social communication, gross motor. And of that, 87% of the children made progress through the ELO. And 42%, almost 43% of those children achieved the objective. So although less than half of those children achieved the objective goal, what we're really excited about is that 87% of those children made progress. So they may not have hit that goal that was set, but there was progress. So obviously, over time, there would be achievement and success towards achieving that goal. So why would we want to use embedded instruction? Well, we want to maximize the children's motivation by considering their interests and preferences. We want to provide opportunities to learn and practice important skills in meaningful context. We want to promote learning. We want to acquire new skills. We want their fluency, like how often, how well, and how often they are using that new skill. And we want them to be able to master that new skill. Okay? That's part of that maintenance and generalization. So how do we go about that process of embedding instruction? Well, what we teach is the functional, the meaning, and the measurable learning targets. When we teach it is the ongoing activities, routines, and transitions. And how we teach instructional procedures that promote engagement, learning, and mastery. And then we also want to how to monitor the progress. We want to focus on evaluating the child and the adult outcomes. So there's steps through that process, and step number one, the planning process. So when we're looking at the steps of embedding instruction, and a lot of us probably, this looks very familiar because this is emergent curriculum lesson planning dynamics. We want to plan, we want to implement, and then we want to evaluate. So when we're planning our learning environments, we want to make sure that we're fully implementing. We have what we're teaching, and then when to teach it, and then how to teach it, and then was it exciting? Did it work? What was the goals and the outcomes for that process? And we're going to go over a little bit more on these dynamics later on in this training. So first, let's talk about planning. What we teach. So planning is defined as team develops functional goals and outcomes. Okay, and that's this planning stage. We talked a lot about that in session 11, where we are we're working together with co-teachers, with families. We're looking at all of the resources and the supplies, to help support the child. So here's some examples of some goals that we have. So Luke is 3 years old, and Luke will participate in breakfast, lunch, and dinner by feeding himself independently. We will know he can do this when he uses his hands to pick up a spoon to put at least 10 bites of soft foods in his mouth at each meal for 1 week. So this is probably a little redundant because we just did this. That's your independent goal. Your social interaction goal is Kenan is 9 months and will participate in meals, playtime, and routines, diapering, bath time, waking up, by looking at caregivers and babbling. We will know he can do this when he looks at the caregiver and babbles 3 times during 5 activities per day for 1 week. So the results of writing goals is 1, remember we want to identify a skill that is essential for participating in the child's routines and activities. We want to specify exactly what the child will do. The context is identified, and it's important to the child, the parents, and the teachers, and it's measurable. We saw some examples where there was a goal, but there was no measurability around it. Okay, so we also want to make sure that our goals, that when we're setting our goals, they're clear, they're professional, they have active language, there's positive language, and that it's participation focused. So when to teach. So when we're in that planning stage, the team decides when to embed the instruction across environments and throughout the day. So we as a team, when we're planning, we want to discuss the child's daily schedule and routines, and this may include the sequence of events at home, in school, in childcare, and make sure that if we are working with a school-age child that we're also including before and after school events as well. That's what that was. There we go. All right, so when we talk about an activity matrix, we're going to make sure that the activity, it's a tool and it's designed to make sure that learning is occurring, okay? So it's going to include the daily routine. It's going to include the number of children and the number of activities, the number of adults who are available to assist, and the activities that require adult monitoring. And it can be used anywhere, at home, at school, any dynamic that is going to help support the child. Okay, so your handout 12.1 is a copy of a blank activity matrix, and then remember that when we are filling out our activity matrix, that we want to make this relevant to the home and the community, okay? Make sure that there's a classroom setting or a home setting. So this is an example of an activity matrix with multiple children, okay? So we have the schedule, we have the child at the top is John, and the child on the right hand is Sarah, okay? And this is classroom specific, so this example that we're seeing here is very classroom specific. So if we were looking, this is classroom specific, what would be some of the dynamics on a schedule if we were looking at this and it was more home setting specific? What would be some areas of the schedule that we would see that could be modified to fit more of a home setting? Marley?
Arrival could be waking up.
Waking up? Mm-hmm.
Time could be breakfast.
I'm sorry?
Table time could be breakfast.
Yep. Table time could be breakfast, yep, absolutely.
Morning circle could be like they're getting dressed, their teeth brushing, their morning routine.
Morning routines, yep, absolutely. And then, so that morning, instead of morning circle, morning routine, and then we could be very specific with what activity or goal that we're having John participate in. So, good, very good. So this is more of an individual activity matrix. So this one is specific for John from the previous slide. So did he seek attention upon arrival? Did he take turns at the table? Did he participate in morning circle? Was he seeking attention and taking a turn? At centers, was he taking turns when he was at learning centers? Did he participate and seek attention during snack? So these are indicators of the data being observed through that activity matrix. So the benefits of embedded instructions throughout those daily routines, that family has more opportunities throughout the day to encourage their child to practice and learn new skills. The child is more likely to achieve a desired outcome developed in partnership between the family and the rest of the early intervention team. The family can maintain typical lives while supporting the development of their child. Okay, and I also want you to be aware of the amount of learning possibilities inherent in many naturally occurring situations and activities. So a lot of it doesn't have to be very specific. It can happen in the natural learning environment. And recommendations should not interfere with natural routines, but should enhance them. Do not assume that skills learned by a young child in one environment will easily generalize to another environment. So what we're expecting at home is going to differ from that of the classroom. So one skill at home is not always going to translate over to the other environment. Okay. Okay, so we've got a video that we're going to watch. In this video, you will see a mom interacting with her infant, and I want you to think about the outcome that the family is working on with their child. How is she embedding learning opportunities? This video is 1:20 seconds.
This video clip shows a mother playing at home with her infant son, splashing in the bathtub, and playing peekaboo while putting on his diaper.
Okay, so what goals or outcomes was the mom working towards with her infant?
Social interaction.
Sorry, a little bit louder.
Social interaction.
Social interaction, okay.
Positive diaper changing.
Positive experience through diaper changing, absolutely. So how do you think that she embeds that learning opportunity throughout the day?
She did a lot of eye contact and kind of engaging him to give a vocal response.
Yep, so a lot of eye contact,
Vocalizing.
a lot of verbal prompts. Very good. Okay, and any other information to add to the video?
I think it seemed like she was trying to get him to recognize who mom is and that he's Justin. So she did a lot of like, where's Justin? And then when they were opening the door, it said, are you closing out mom? Like she was very much like, I'm mom, you're Justin.
Right, identifying each participant in the activity. Yeah, very good. Very good. So our next activity, our first activity is going to be that we're going to use the child vignette that you have on your tables, and we're going to create an activity matrix. So using the daily schedule for the child in your vignette, every folder has a child's daily schedule in there, and I'm going to have each group create a matrix based on the goals that you set for that child back in session 11. Do you have any questions on that activity? Okay. Okay, so we've had some time to collaborate, so let's have a table share a little bit of information about how you felt with your activity matrix.
I'll go first.
Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, she's volunteering me. That's okay, that's all right. So, the question is how we felt about it?
Yeah, I mean, did you feel like there was some easy, obvious dynamics with filling out the matrix? Were there some challenges that you had maybe?
I think we felt like it kind of fit together like a nice little puzzle.
Good.
Yeah.
I think our first struggle was figuring out what to write in the box, like how it would match the example.
The example, yep.
Um,
So anything that you want to, anything out of your matrix that you want to share? Let me ask you specifically, like, did you choose, what environment setting did you choose?
Environment setting is, well, at school.
At school, okay, so
Uh-huh.
classroom setting?
Yeah, so we went from breakfast through circle time, free play art, we went to outside time and diapering, and then on to lunch.
Perfect.
So there was a number of things that we looked at.
And a lot of opportunities for
Ex-
embedding.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Great, thank you for sharing. You know I'm coming to you.
What?
So we had it a little bit harder to do our activity.
And tell me why you feel like it was a little more challenging.
Well, because there's things going on at home that we get from the report, from the information about parents and the school, and there's like different settings. Like, he's able to do a lot of things at school, but at home he's buying different settings.
He's like in a high chair and a crib at home, whereas when he's at school, he's on a cot and he has his own chair that he sits at.
So what setting did you decide that you wanted to focus on first?
We went with the home setting.
For the home setting?
Yeah.
Good.
And then we just, we talked about.
Yep, great. And sometimes, when we're doing it for the first time, there is a trial and error to it. We got to see what works, and that's part of that evaluation part too. That's the planning process is a lot of questions. It's a lot of information. We have different dynamics that we're seeing in different settings. So we really have to look at those as what's going to be the most beneficial setting to focus on first, And if we need to revisit it, that's okay, you know? That's okay. So, all right, good job. So now we're going to go on to how to teach. Now we're going to talk about implementing. And so now the team is deciding on supports, materials needed to teach the child, as well as reinforcing the schedule. Okay? So when we're talking about how to teach, we're going to talk about instructional procedures. And one of the dynamics on instructional procedures is the handout that you guys have that describes the antecedent, behavior, and consequence of the complete learning trial in more depth.
Antecedent.
Antecedent.
Yep, or the trigger.
Right. I knew what it meant, but I actually pulled it up on my phone to see how it was pronounced. Okay, so antecedent. So we're going to talk about this in a little bit more in depth, but we're going to talk about least adult directed to most adult directed. And as you can see from this graphic, that support can be offered in all three areas. It's just modifying the physical environment to adult prompting, and we're going to continue to talk about that again here in just a little bit.
Do you mind keeping the other side up for a second?
Go back to the other slide.
That one.
This one? Sure. So when we talk about the least adult directed, we have what we've talked about before, a really supportive environment, and we have universal curriculum modifications. When we're in the middle, we've got embedded learning opportunities and intentional teaching strategies, and then the most adult directed is feedback, consequence strategies, prompt, and prompt fading strategies. And we're going to talk about these strategies here in a little bit. Okay. All right. No, you're fine. You tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. So curriculum modifications and adaptations, we have the environmental arrangement, which you change your physical environment, your social environment, your temporal environment, because you want to promote the participation and the engagement for learning, okay? Special equipment you're going to use, or you're going to have adaptive devices that allow the child to participate or increase the child's level of participation, so that we want to access or increase that participation level. Materials modification, we want to modify materials so that the child can participate as independently as possible. So then we want to simplify the activity. If it's a complicated task, we want to break it down into smaller parts or reduce the number of steps, so that way the child can feel more successful. We want to talk about child preferences as well, so we want to identify and integrate the child's preferences, maybe holding a favorite toy, or utilizing a favorite activity, or maybe even having a person or a teacher that they're attached to help support through that modification or adaptation. Invisible support, so purposely arranging of naturally occurring events with one activity. For example, if a child is working on staying with the group during circle time, we're going to use an alternate active activity such as songs, movements, etc. to engage that participation. We always want to provide that through peer support. We're going to utilize the peers to help children learn important objectives. So we're going to model our behavior in the classroom. We're going to pair with a child with peers, pair the child with a peer, and definitely use praise and encouragement. And then our adult support. Have an adult intervene to support the child's participation and their learning. And we can do that through modeling, and we can also do that with joining in with play with the child, and also again using praise and encouragement. Okay? Antecedent.
Antecedent, very good.
Got it. So here we have the complete learning trial, the CLT. So a logically occurring or planned antecedent, A, is followed by a behavior, B, that leads to a logically occurring or planned consequence, A, B, C. And it occurs whenever there's a complete ABC sequence. So we know from research that complete learning trials are important for early learning, particularly for children with disabilities. Okay? And so then the next couple of slides, we're going to show some ABCs, and we're going to provide a few video examples for you to see as well. So in this chart here that we have the trigger or the antecedent. Sitting in circle time, teacher selects Tommy as the kid counter. Teacher says, let's count your friends. The target behavior, he's touching each friend with a gentle hand and counts using a one-to-one correspondence. The consequence is praise and acknowledgement. Wow, you counted all your friends. Or, do it with me and touch and count each friend with the child. Another example for an infant is mom looks at baby with a smile and provides a gentle touch. The target behavior is the baby engages with the mom by looking in her eyes, smiling back and cooing. And then the consequence would be mom reciprocates by imitating the cooing sound while continuing to smile and hold the baby. Any questions on ABC? Okay. So now we're going to talk about some teaching strategies, and inside of those teaching strategies we have incidental teaching, time delay, manned model, prompting procedures, reinforcement. And we're going to go over each of these and how they are going to help with the embedded learning opportunities. So incidental teaching involves providing instruction with ongoing typical activities based on the child's interest and motivation. So then it's going to promote initiation. It allows the child opportunity to interact and respond spontaneously. It's got built-in reinforcers. It's measurable, and it's planned. It's different than a teachable moment. So typically in incidental teaching, teachers first arrange the environment. So they place the students' preferred toys and activities within sight, but not within reach. So they want to encourage the student to initiate. After the child demonstrates an interest in items or activities, the teacher encourages the student to elaborate on his own initiation by asking questions or providing prompts, and then the student subsequently obtains the item upon making an appropriate response. So some of the strategies around incidental teaching is forgetfulness, getting ready for snack and you purposely forgetting to put the snack food in the bowl, so that the goal is that the child will ask, where is the snack? Or, you forgot the food, Miss Julie. Visible but unreachable. So a child may have a highly desirable toy that is out of reach, but they can see it. So the goal is the child reaches, looks at the item, and ideally will then look at the adult and ask for help. Violation of expectations is sitting down for snack and the teacher's hands are still messy from, say, an art project. And the goal is that the child or the children will ask their teacher to wash their hands before snack. Sabotage. So sabotage is closing a lid of a container with a highly desirable object inside, like a toy or a snack, and the child knows it's in there but is unable to open it. So the goal being that the child asks for help, says open, or simply looks at the adult, which could be the nonverbal communication. Piece by piece, the child is sitting at the table completing a puzzle. However, the teacher or the peer has all of the puzzle pieces. So the goal is that the child asks the peer or the adult for more, using verbal, sign, or eye gaze. And this is going to be the video that we're about to view here in a second. So the video that we're about to watch is a 3-minute video. This video is from LEAP, and the teacher is helping the young girl wearing the shamrock visor to interact positively with peers. She's very motivated by puzzles, so the situation was intentionally set up by taking a puzzle and copying each piece. The peer was trained to keep the actual piece puzzles until the young girl requested one from her. In order for the girl wearing the shamrock to be given an actual puzzle piece, she needed to, 1, select which puzzle piece from her peer using the sentence strip, puzzle piece she wanted to request, 2, place the photocopy of the puzzle piece on the sentence strip, and 3, request the puzzle piece from the peer using the sentence strip. Once she requested the puzzle piece, the peer would give it to her, and after each positive interaction, the teacher provided reinforcement to both children using an edible. And I do want to note that the edible reinforcement was faded very quickly. Okay? And we'll get started on that video. Okay, so after viewing that video, what were some of the strategies being used that we had talked about? Remember, forgetfulness, visible but unreachable, violation of expectations, sabotage, piece by piece, and expected response. And, I mean, it says video right next to it, so obviously we know that it was piece by piece, but what were some of the other dynamics that you saw as well?
Expectant response?
Expectant response, okay?
That would be with the candy. So the expected response is that she'll get a reward after she completes the task.
Okay. So then and I apologize, what I need to do is go back to this one right here. So it's these strategies. Which of these strategies as part of, and you're right, Marley, the reinforcement is the edible. So then what else did we see in the video?
Prompting procedures?
Prompting procedures.
It was not intentional, but there was time delay because the teacher kept getting interrupted.
Well, and it was a busy environment, absolutely. I do think that that there was a lot going on in the room, but the children were both very patient during that process, weren't they? So there was definite peer support and adult support. The teacher was close by to even help support Jessica, who was the peer, and that allowed for the child to to be able to continue through that activity. Okay, so then in addition to a lot of that, we know that the child loved puzzles. So by modifying that puzzle, she created a copy of those puzzle pieces. So by modifying the activity, she did the photocopying, and then environmental arrangement also was the other strategy, because they were all three sitting at the table together as well. Okay. So a next strategy would be time delay as part of incidental teaching. So you state your direction, you wait 5 seconds, you ask a general question, you say, you give the direction again, and you do provide the necessary assistance upon a prompt. The MAND model is used to help children use the language they've learned within appropriate contexts. So the goal in a MAN model is not to make the child use language to get the object, but the goal is to assist the child in knowing when and how to use words, okay? So the teacher arranges the environment in a way that will gain the child's interest. For example, you might be playing with a toy to capture the child's attention, and when the child expresses interest, you mand or verbally instruct the child to respond. So for example, you might say, "Tell me what you want." If the child responds correctly, you provide the toy. If the child does not give you the response, you model what you want the child to say. So for example, you might say, "I, Parker, want to play with the train." But sometimes we have to be careful with how we deliver our model, because children can be
Lelia.
thank you. And so they'll repeat the word "say." Or they'll, instead of using, "I want the toy," they'll say, "Parker wants the toy." So sometimes we do have to be very careful with how we model that. Okay, so research shows that prompting procedures include any help given to learners that assist them in using a specific skill. So these procedures are often used in conjunction with other evidence-based practices, including time delay and reinforcement. Okay. Prompting procedures are used to teach children a new skill, and so when are prompts to be used? Well, given before or during the performance, and they help behavior occur so the teacher can provide the reinforcement, and are only introduced during the acquisition phase of instruction. There is a hierarchy of prompts, and sometimes children need to learn, they need help in learning a new skill. So when they are learning that skill, they begin to need less and less help. So the many ways that we give children help when they're learning it's called assistance, of course. Assistance is help given to a child at the same time you give her a direction or you ask a question. So giving a child assistance helps her learn a new skill without becoming too frustrated. It's also to help prevent a child from learning the wrong way to do the skill or a task. Holding a children's shirt to help her put it on is an example of assistance. Another example is giving a child a hint, like pick up the big block, it's red. Okay? And depending on the level of assistance will depend on the hierarchy of the prompts. Okay, so the verbal cue, telling the child exactly what is expected of them or what you want them to do. The visual cue could be use of signs or pictures. Modeling is a peer or an adult showing the child exactly what behavior is expected of them. And then the physical assistance is the actual, can be varying levels. It could be partial or full assistance, where it could be, hand over hand assistance. There are some prompting procedures called chaining, and we saw that on the previous slide where it's the most to least and least to most. And so forward chaining prompting is used to teach a child a new skill. More prompts are provided for the child in the beginning of the sequence, and then the prompts are faded. So, for example, teaching a child to zip their coat. So the more that we are, when we are helping a child to zip their coats, we do it, and then eventually we start it, and then they do it, and then eventually they don't need us anymore. The opposite of that is backward chaining, where there's the least to the most prompting, and it begins with the least intrusive prompt and uses the more intrusive prompts as corrective feedback. So teaching a child to wash their hands. So when you're utilizing prompting, you'll want to think about your chain succession on more involvement or least involvement in teaching a child a new skill. When we talk about
Oh yes, so there is a weird little discrepancy for some reason in all of our programs. There's a little ghost in there that shoots you across to the other things, so you just have to play with it a little bit to get through it. Otherwise, it just shoots you forward because it's like trying to rush you to get done. So bear with us as we get through that little glitch.
Okay. So if I go, okay, there it is. Least to most prompting. The first level provides an opportunity for the child to respond without prompts at all. And then the remaining levels are sequences from the least amount to the most amount of assistance. The final prompt is the most assistance, which is full physical. It ensures that the child will complete the task. Okay? So the first being independent, intermediate is increase the prompts, and the most is the controlling prompt. Ooh,
Yep, I know, it's crazy,
I like
right?
that.
I know, and it does it on all of them.
This is the first time it's happened for us.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
thought it
thank
was,
goodness.
I thought it was just mine, but it actually happens on a couple of my other colleagues as well.
Oh,
It's
wow.
crazy.
Okay. Steps to least to most prompts. As part of that planning stage, we are, step one for implementation of least to most prompting involves the planning stage for intervention. It includes selecting a target behavior, identifying learning opportunities, choosing the cue or task direction for prompting, sequencing and fading the prompts, and then planning for data collection. Okay? Now I'm afraid to push the button.
You can try and do it through your keypad on your computer, and it might help.
It keeps stopping on the video, so I'm thinking if we get past that, it should be okay. Okay.
One could hope.
All right. Discrete or chained skills. So when we're talking about on the number of sequence of steps in a chain, you want to think about these in the following ways. You want to observe a typical toddler performing the chain. So you're going to write down the steps. Ask the parent to help their toddler perform the chain and write down the steps. And then you want to perform the chain yourself and write down the steps. When you use the steps you've identified as the sequence of steps in the chained task to teach the toddler, okay? The chain task. So then, for example, a chain task for washing hands would include the following steps. Toddler climbs step stool to reach the sink. Toddler open hands over the sink so adult can pump soap on the hands. Toddler rubs the hands together. Adult turns on water and toddler puts hands under running water. Toddler gets paper towel. Toddler wipes hands on paper towel. Toddler throws away the paper towel. Okay? So you can see the varying different ways of, how a simple task of washing hands can vary between home or school. So, listing the number of sequences in that chain is helpful. Whereas the discrete skill is just a single response. So pointing to an object or pushing a truck, putting a block in a box. So there's less steps in the discrete. So some common mistakes are using too many verbal prompts. So if we're too frequent with our physical prompts, then it's less intense and intrusive prompts may be effective. Using prompts that are not appropriate for the individual child as well too. So has the toddler been taught how to use this type of target skill before? What types of prompts have been the most successful when teaching the toddler a variety of skills? And is the target skill been successfully taught to other toddlers? Because, clearly if we're teaching a new skill to a toddler that's beyond the developmental appropriateness of that skill, then we're going to probably have some frustration from that and not feel successful. Okay, so now it'll stop clicking. Okay, there we go. So we're going to watch some videos and we're going to talk about the strategies that are being used. Okay, and we're going to take a 10-minute break first. Yes, we're going to take a 10-minute break first and let you go to the bathroom or fill up your coffee or your water, and then we will come back. 10 minutes.
I'm like, woohoo.
it's like,
I'm sorry?
if there's something sketchy in their background, both of them, like,
Just show them
I'm
around.
so shocked
You're
they
good.
don't have a kitchen.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
I told him
Yeah.
my room is a mess and he needs.
Okay, so we're gonna watch some videos. These videos were, these video resources were provided by the Head Start Center for Inclusion and Connect the Center to Mobilize Early Childhood Knowledge and SPIES, Strategies for Preschool Intervention in Everyday Settings. All right, so we're gonna watch the video and then we're going to discuss what strategies are being used. And in that, the strategies, what we talked about, the incidental teaching, the time delay, the manned model, the chaining prompting, and the reinforcement. And then we'll discuss what we see in these videos, all right?
This video clip shows a speech therapist working with a boy in a childcare setting. She encourages the child to use his words by withholding access to the desired toys and models communication using signs and a picture board.
Come here. Oh, and making a video. And come on. Oh, ouch. Oh my God. What? My dog. You want dog? You want dog? You want dog? What do you want, son? You want people or blocks? Blocks. That's right. Now you want more blocks? Repeat that. Repeat that. I want blocks.
I think it's trying to skip through the frames again, even through the video. Okay, so, so routine in a program with block play. So what were some things that we saw? What were some of the strategies being used? Remember, our strategies are incidental teaching, time delay, manned model, chaining prompting, and reinforcement.
She gave him a choice and then waited for his response, but she did it by pointing to each object. From what I could see,
Right,
it was a glitch. She
Yeah.
was pointing to each object and only setting out those two.
Mm-hmm. Right, so incidental teaching. And then adult support, so she was giving gestural cues, so absolutely very good, Abby.
She was withholding the objects, the desired and gave choices.
Holding the objects?
Yeah, she said my blocks. And then he still wasn't asking and she said, do you want a block or a piece? And he said block.
And a block, yep. So then giving matching blocks to the template. And some verbal prompting in there. Okay, anything else? I think actually what you're saying, Debbie, though, too, is that visual support as well. So, yep, absolutely. All right, let's see. Let's hope the next video isn't blurry.
This video clip shows an occupational therapist working with a boy with autism in a preschool classroom. The therapist has created a template to assist the child in building a garage with blocks.
And since we were already using visual supports
Is it 'cause
to
it's trying to
give
move through the
him
thing?
some options for activities, I thought maybe also offering him some visual supports for the actual building process would be helpful.
I think you're exactly right. All right, can you put them on here? Right on top of there.
There you go. At one of the team meetings, we actually talked through my idea of just making him some little maps that would facilitate his building. And so the teacher and I had talked about this and agreed that maybe this was a good idea to try. So I went ahead and made the maps of things that he already had choices for on his visual supports for actually choosing something to build, and I was trying to be congruent with that. And so then the next thing I wanted to do was actually go ahead and take that into the classroom and try it with him, and let the teacher observe a little bit, if she could, just so that we could then evaluate whether this was an intervention that was really going to be helpful to him or not, and if we needed to adapt it.
Oh, this is the black play, right?
Alright, I'm sorry about the blurry, I don't know why I embedded the videos into the PowerPoint, but it doesn't seem to like that today. So from what you could see with the block play, what were some of the dynamics that you saw with Austin's occupational therapist?
She took a child preference, simplified it, and then added special equipment, which was the block mount.
Yeah, absolutely. She gave him the template, the visual support template, and then she was there to help modify or, you know, kind of simplify that activity. Yep, very good. Do you think that this was a least to most chaining or a most to least?
Most to least?
It was a most to least prompting, yeah, so there was gesturing, and then gesturing to choose the block and then place it on the template, and then going into Austin doing that on his own, so going into independence. Yeah, so very good, good job, Abby. All right. I apologize for the videos, I don't know why.
This segment shows physical therapy with a child with a fairly severe neurological impairment. I found in this 2-year-old classroom that using the free play time is a great opportunity to work on some of the floor skills that were.
Okay, so for rolling with friends, the therapist is working with Jake's motor skills and obviously working with him and his ability to roll, surrounded by a room full of classmates. So what could have been a pull-out or a one-on-one therapy session turned into a pretty awesome classroom activity. So what were some of the strategies that she used?
She used peer support.
Peer support, absolutely, yeah, where the children were modeling the behavior to encourage Jake to roll over. What else?
Environmental arrangement, she said most of the day he's in some form of restrictive equipment. He doesn't have muscles to hold himself up. So by giving him floor time, it's changing his environment.
Yep, absolutely. By giving him the floor to roll around, the children used a pillow. He used it looked like a wedge, so that it allowed him to kind of be up while she was doing the leg movement. Yep, absolutely, Marlene. What else?
Adult support too, because they talked about how the teachers needed to do those same exercises with them during diaper changes.
Yep, adult support, definitely incorporating the least to most with the chaining prompts. And then I think we definitely had some incidental teaching in there as well too. So remember, our incidental teaching is, I think in this situation, is the visible but unreachable. So when he was over on his stomach and he saw the children with the vehicles, you know, and you could see he wants to get to the toys. He wants to, but I think that encouragement for even just having that motivation to make eye contact or, you know, making verbal cues to want to participate really helped to encourage a lot of that as well too. So, okay, we'll go to the next one.
video clip shows siblings playing in a community park. The older sister is assisting her preschool-age brother in exploring the environment and using the equipment.
Tree? Tree? Is that the tree? Yeah. Tree. Come on. Come on. There we go. Come on. Come on. Come on. You know? Hey.
Okay, so then this one was playing at a park. So a sister's leading her brother around a community park. So what strategies do you see being used in this video?
Peer support.
Peer support, yeah, sibling is definitely a peer, absolutely. So as far as what she was, how was she supporting him?
She arranged that environment through the tunnel in that she was behind him, so he had only one direction to go.
Right, so yeah, absolutely. So
She
physical
helped him.
support?
She helped him follow her, like, to the tree.
Yep, so she modeled some of the behaviors or participation in activities that they were doing. And then this one, child preference. So he was really excited about the tree. Obviously, he loves being outdoors. He loved, the natural items. There was definitely a dynamic going on there. And so, so that was definitely, you could tell he really was excited and very energetic and happy about it. So that child preference was definitely a strategy being used as well. So, okay. And then our last one.
Today, in Jacob's classroom, his teacher is reading a book that was specially made for him to fit his needs for speech articulation practice. But as you can see, she's reading this book that all the kids love with the entire group. In this way, all the children provide models for Jacob for the words that have been embedded in this little story that have his targets. So everybody says the words, everybody loves it, and Jacob, who's the little boy to the left of the screen with the blue shirt on, he gets some practice and he gets additional models, as well as the activity being a nice integrated part of his everyday classroom routines, because they have the circle time every day. You can see they're also using a mirror because they're talking a little bit about putting their lips together to make the bilabial M, B, and P sounds.
Okay, so reading at circle time. So the teacher combines several embedded interventions into circle time to support Jacob's learning and participation. What did we see? Marla?
Environmental arrangement, how she worked in special equipment into his everyday activity.
Special equipment, so the mirror, the environmental arrangement, making sure that they were sitting in a circle, absolutely.
So the book was specific to his needs, but everyone in the class also really liked it.
Yeah, and right, so there was peer support and there was invisible supports as well. Anything else? So does it feel like it's becoming a little easier to see how these opportunities, these moments of strategy can really just be so empowering inside of our classrooms? It really does make a difference, does it? Okay. Okay. Get through my slides. Any questions on the videos themselves? No? Okay. So then we're going to talk about positive reinforcement.
You can use your clicker again.
I can't if your flash drive's in it.
Oh.
Oh wait, did you put the, no, yeah. The USB won't fit next to the HDMI, which means, and this one won't either, which means I can't.
will.
You think so? Try it? Okay. You can jam it in there. Nice.
That's right.
That's right. Show who's boss.
I'm the boss.
Okay, positive reinforcement. So a positive reinforcer is any pleasant object, action, or gesture that's given to a person following a behavior that results in increase in the frequency of that behavior. So we've got social reinforcers, we've got tangible or material reinforcers, and we've got activity reinforcers. Okay? So when do we want to reinforce? Well, we want to reinforce immediately after the desired behavior. We want to reinforce every time the desired behavior occurs. We want to gradually fade that reinforcer, and then we want to reinforce occasionally to strengthen and maintain the target behavior. Are we recording? Yep, okay. So let's think about this in like, what's one of the most probably obvious reinforcers that we are working with children in?
Praise,
What's that?
praise.
Praise. Mm-hmm. But what's the skill set that we're teaching? What's the behavior and the outcome that we always think about? And parents always bring in the goodie bags,
Potty training?
potty training. So the goal is potty training, sitting on the potty, producing on the potty, being able to go. Eventually the goal is to become potty trained. And we, when a child, even if they sit on the potty, we want to reward that behavior. That was a positive outcome. You sat. Maybe we didn't produce anything, but that's okay. We actually sat, we tried, and we'll try again in a little bit. Okay, but then eventually we fade that reinforcer out, because once the child becomes potty trained, do we still continue to give them an M&M every time they go to the bathroom? I mean, I don't get an M&M every time. So then if you do see any behavior where if a child may be struggling with retaining that new skill set, and we need to throw in that occasional reinforcer, then those are also opportune moments as well too. Marley.
On a personal note, I'm a really big fan of the Victory Flush, because we don't get M&Ms when we go potty, but you don't get to touch that handle unless you put something in the potty or put yourself on it.
Oh.
And it's really exciting because we make a really big deal about the flush.
Yeah.
Not
Nice. So I like it because, I mean, not everybody wants an edible as a reinforcer, Some parents, and too, especially now with, should it be candy? Should it be something else? Should it be a sticker? What if we lose our sticker? So, getting to flush the potty, yeah, I mean, if we make that a big deal. It was unfortunately the flushing of the potty that my child was terrified of, so.
no big deal.
That didn't work for us so much. Yeah. Abby, did you have a question? Or-
I was gonna piggyback off that. My mom, when she potty trained my sister and I, actually just me because I had no motivation, she did a sticker chart.
Mm-hmm.
And if I got 5 times without any accidents,
Yeah.
she had in front of the toilet, she made a shelf with all these prizes so that I
Oh,
would
yeah.
sit and
Yeah.
look at them.
You're like, there's the
You don't want an accident?
reinforcer.
Yeah, there's that thing that you wanted 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
I know you still want it, so
Yep.
you better.
Right.
So,
And a visual reinforcer, boy, it's just
Oh, it was-
staring at you.
yeah.
So, So with that, we're going to watch a video about positive teacher feedback, because one of the reinforcers is that, like Debbie said, it's praise, it's acknowledgement. And so it's that positive, feeling for the child that, like, wow, I did it and my teacher or my mom saw it. So we're gonna watch this video where the audience, in this video, we're going to demonstrate various examples of positive teacher feedback. I want you to think about what strategies are being used. And in the video clip, each example will be repeated twice to give more time for us to think about the strategy being used, okay? So it plays it twice on purpose.
So Alt-Tab.
Alt-Tab. So what strategy do we think is being used with "that's the little duck"? Splash.
What did you say before? You said, like when you repeat?
It would be mirroring, is that, it's not mirroring, it'd be just, you know.
Say what they said, you repeat what they said.
The teacher said, "That's the little duck." Splash.
What the duck does, what's the action of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think ultimately, in this situation, the child, and it's hard to hear the child, but the child could have said, "What does the duck say?" or "Here's the duck." Or, we're unsure of what the child actually said, but the teacher modeled, "That's the little," yes, you're right, "that's the little duck." Splash. So there was a positive reinforcer, there was, excitement around it. I feel like that was a positive interaction, and the child was pleased by the teacher's response. Exactly.
Oh, that would work for a wheel. Very good. Oh, that would work for a wheel. Very good.
Okay, oh, that would work for a wheel. Very good. So I think in this situation, the child is building a vehicle, and the teacher could have prompted the child to maybe ask a question to say, what can we use to build this vehicle so that it drives? I mean, there could be a number of questions she could have asked, but her response being, "Oh, that would work for a wheel." Very good. Where's the positive feedback coming from?
She reinforces his participation, her participation.
Yep, she reinforced participation.
Creative thinking.
Yep, she was very excited about his creative thinking. He was thinking of something that could be maybe not a wheel, but maybe something in the shape of a circle. So she was very excited about his thinking outside the box. And then the very good. I think the very good is definitely that positive piece in there. Like, oh yeah, that would work for a wheel.
Great idea. Very good.
Okay, so very good really gave it some finality and really gave it that positive feedback tone.
Fantastic! Now you've got a toy to play with the Play-Doh. Fantastic! Now you've got a toy to play with the Play-Doh.
So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him just continue to play. so we can see all of them.
You're right, Hecko, you found your name and the number 9. You're right, Hecko, you found your name and the number 9. High five, dude. This one is a match. You did it. See ya. Good work. Take your briefcase.
So throughout all of those videos, what were some of the positive feedbacks that you saw pretty consistently coming from the teachers?
Excitement in their voice.
Excitement in the tone. You can definitely talk to a child and, you know, have positive words, but if your tone and your inflection doesn't sound very encouraging, they're not going to understand that. What else?
The thing I appreciated the most were the teachers that described what they did well. I mean, there's a difference between good job, you did it, and great, you did it, you found your name and the number 9.
And the number 9.
Where they really described it well.
Right.
Or you're sharing. I see that my friends are sharing.
Yeah, I like that I see my friends sharing. Yeah, describing the behavior for that positive feedback, absolutely. We saw a lot of
Physical
high fives,
interaction, yeah, this
Yeah.
patting on the back.
patting on the back, the high fives, yep, yep. Yep, okay, great. Toggle back over. All right. All right. Okay, so embedded learning opportunities are opportunities where teachers create short teaching episodes. And with this goes on inside of the classroom activities and the routines. Teaching episodes focus on a child's individual learning objective. Okay. So now we're going to watch a video of some planning time between two teachers. How to work with Leah, getting her to ask a friend to play, okay? Each video is very short.
So one of Leah's goals is to ask her friends to play. And she tends to only want to play by herself, so it's really important that we get her to tolerate playing with other kids and sharing her play ideas with them. And lately she's been really like in the block area. So I thought this week I'm going to give her some extra instruction and support.
Okay, so how do you feel about the planning stage? You know, collaborating with a co-teacher, co-team to embed a learning opportunity. Do you feel like that it was beneficial between the teachers to, you know, kind of voice that goal that they had for Leah?
Yes.
And then talk to me about how you felt, like, how did you feel that implementation process was, like, how it worked out for them?
They started strong with identifying a preference she's really been into and pairing out with the goal they have for her.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then it went really well because she was able to talk to her friend and she also was encouraged to offer her idea about the playing.
Yes.
And it was I think it was very successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. It's okay. So purposeful planning should be able to answer the following questions. What do I need to do? How do I know I'm making progress? when do I know that I'm done, and what do I do next? So a child should be able to answer these questions, you know? So there should be clear directions. There should be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And like you guys have noticed in all of our videos, there should be a supportive environment for that, okay? So we're going to work on creating our own embedded learning opportunity for the child that you are working on in your vignettes. So what I want you to do is to pull out your information from your child's folder, and then the packet that I gave you with the tidbits for teachers, it has the embedded learning opportunity at a glance. It's got the tips for teachers on ELOs, when to teach, and then it's got the teacher's guide, embedded learning opportunities. And so I'm going to give you 10 minutes to look over those handouts, and then I'd like for you to map out an ELO using the activity matrix and goals that are set for your child. Do you have any questions on that? Okay, great.
Is ELO a handout?
Well, let's talk about how that worked out for you. What worked well? Who wants to share?
It was great. We talked
good.
about Quan, and we focus on mealtime for the routine that we focus on. And we saw that he had a difficulty coming to mealtime from mom.
Okay.
So we talked about, like we were talking about earlier, we would have him watching TV while meals being prepared, and then we would give him a 5-minute warning.
Okay.
And then what we would say is that you have 5 minutes to watch your show, and then you're coming to dinner.
Okay.
And when he was successful, we would, say, "Great job, give me a high five."
Right, right.
And then, as far as materials we needed, it was just to be prepared so not to interrupt that.
Right.
Because we wanted it to be a success and not have it, oh, well, we didn't have that on the table, meltdown, We wanted to focus on him being able to come to a meal without incident. So, and then we, as far as our opportunities, we would have 2 opportunities at home, it was breakfast and dinner.
And dinner, yes.
And so we, as far as throughout the week, we said we would look to have at least 2 times daily that we would have success in 3 times a week. Each meal.
Yeah.
6 times a week. So, and I feel like with our, one of my things was like the consecutive 3-day thing. I'm like, well, shouldn't we have it like just 3 days success? Like, cause they're learning. If they don't have a success on Tuesday, but they had it on Monday, and then they have a success on Wednesday.
I understand what you're saying, but remember that habit is built when it happens in a pattern of 7 or more times. So I think if the dynamic is if we just said 3 days, but let's say it took 5-6 days to get those 3 positive days, then our negative behaviors are outweighing that of the positive behaviors.
Well, that's kind of cool about what we talked about. We talked about Maria getting her to share her space and her things with other people. So we came up with a comfort bunny where everybody gets to hug it and then pass it to a friend. But the cool thing about it is that it worked out. You could do that so many times throughout the day and encourage it at home. So
Yeah.
we are getting that repetitiveness.
We brought up maybe at drop-off is the first time she'll see the bunny. Okay, hug mom, hug the bunny. All right, mom and the bunny are going away now, or maybe the bunny stays a little bit longer. And we weren't quite sure what to do with the Monday, Tuesday, Friday. So something I thought of is Monday we introduce the idea. Tuesday she considers it, she warms up.
Okay.
Wednesday she can do it with help. Thursday maybe without help, and Friday maybe without hesitation at all.
Great.
She's pretty young, so maybe that
Right,
needs to
right.
be extended, but giving her that time to get like, okay, this is my object, but I can share it.
Great. Were there any, you did say that there was some challenges you were trying to explain a little
I didn't know
bit?
if the wheat was at the bottom,
Oh,
Yeah.
it was, oh, okay.
but that's
All
when
right.
I was like, maybe we introduce it and by Friday we can do it without hesitation.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right. So then what's next? Well, we want to do some evaluating. We want to make sure that the team's collecting the data to be sure that the child is learning the new skill. So in Maria's case, that we're sharing the bunny. If there is no progress or regression is in the skill, then the team's going to reevaluate the instructional plan and create a new one. Okay?
I think we worked that into ours. We came up with our ideal situation, and then what would we say if she refused to pass it?
Good, so you guys are planning for, either scenario, which is great. It's good. So in data collection and monitoring outcomes, this informs us if the intervention is working by child outcomes or adult outcomes, okay? The data should be reviewed on a daily basis to drive current intervention strategies and adult response. And every 2 to 4 weeks, the team should review current criteria and child-adult outcomes. So what are some ways that we can track, so what are some different ways that we can track some of this data?
Kind of writing the time and what happened, so like
Anecdotal?
anecdotal.
Yeah.
8:15, Maria hugged Bunny with assistance.
Check sheet,
Yeah.
Or check.
or a check sheet.
Check sheet, yep. Some other ideas could be some scatter plots. Like you said, there could be an A outcome, there could be a B outcome, so maybe we plot those different types of outcomes to get that data. And then rating scales too. So you can, when we are implementing these opportunities and we're setting that opportunity to collect the data, just remember that, that there is no one way that's the correct way for collecting that data. Also too, keep in mind that you can do photos and videos for data collecting as well. And then even samples of children's artwork and some of their work. So as part of that, the behavior rating scale, remember that it does not require tallying, it doesn't require counting or stopwatches. Data is collected one time per routine. So for Maria, if that goal for you is at drop-off, that's your one time. And you're only counting that one time per routine, which usually means one time per day, okay? When you're collecting that data, less time consuming and results is more accurate. You're gonna get more accurate data when you're collecting data in less time consuming manners, okay? And the effectiveness of the intervention strategies are visually identifiable. And you have your handouts, you have some of those handouts too from LEAP. There's the LEAP data collection tool, which is blank, and so it shows you that sheet, and then the levels of assistance as well. So the data rating scale, so you also have, have handouts with that, you have handouts to go with your LEAP data collection tool that also work with the data rating scale assistance, okay? So this is an example of a key where you would say there was no data for that session, or the level 4, that child was independent in their action or their activity, okay? So this is what the data sheet, the behavior rating scale looks like. You have a copy of that with your handouts. Okay, and then your criteria, equals the number of consecutive days before decreasing level, and the level is the level of assistance that the adult should provide. And then this table illustrates how you would score the behavior rating scale using the levels of assistance. So this is the hierarchy of prompting. So you use them as anchor scores. So Joey will gain his peers' attention using the touch and talk strategies. So on day 1, we were at a 1. Day 2, we were at a 1. Day 3, we were at a 1. So depending on how you've set your goal, it keeps moving on me. I'm so sorry. Let's go back for a second. So based off of the behavior rating scale, and the prompts from the adult, you're going to see, full physical assistance up to independence. So based off of the prompt level, there's the teacher's behavior, the learning behavior or consequence, and then the learner behavior consequence with no response or an inappropriate response, and then what is that next step? So do we want to wait 5 seconds and next step, or wait 5 seconds and next step? So depending on the level of the prompt level, and then the teacher behavior, and then the consequence, then it's going to determine that next step for you, okay? Which now we go to our sample, our completed sample, where based off of that information, so for Joey, we have 1. So we needed full physical assistance. So we had to repeat direction while providing prompts until complete. So that's why on our completed scoring sheet, we have a 1 for day 1. Okay? And then ultimately, once we get to 4, level of independence, give a general direction, child responds and completes the task, score is a 4. So now we see we have a 4. So we see that progress in the data. Any questions about the data or about the data tools? No? Good. Okay. So some additional ways that you can collect data would be event sampling. You can do a duration recording. You can do a time sampling, category sampling. There's a task analytic and a scatter plot. Has anyone ever done any data collecting in a classroom? Has done observations where you're collecting that data? Marley, you have?
Yeah, I
Okay.
had a child that was, I was trying to figure out how I was gonna talk to the parents about him being on the spectrum. So we did a lot of data, like recording how many times a day he was stemming, when he was stemming, how vocal he was, and then when he was vocal, when it was babble and when it was an actual word.
Okay.
And then what resulted from that was a speech therapist that came into my classroom.
Great. Well, and that's the perfect amount, or that's the perfect direction to take when providing information for the interventionist. They're going to want to see, any of that information, be it, time sampling, event sampling, scatter plots. That's a lot of the information that we're providing for our kiddo as well, too. So you can always find more information from the Head Start Center for Inclusion, the CONNECT, the Center to Mobilize Early Childhood Knowledge, and SPIES, Strategies for Preschool Intervention in Everyday Settings. So there's always additional resources at these websites, okay? So our major messages tonight were that we were teaching targeted goals and outcomes requires planning, implementing, and evaluating. It's essential that the child and the caregiver are engaged in the embedded learning opportunities, which should be offered throughout the day across all environments. We talked about appropriate supports and positive reinforcements should be available for children or families to achieve their goals and their outcomes. This will increase the rate of success leading to independence. And then progress monitoring is critical. Okay? So I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to complete your activity thought seeds, which are part of your handout. And then, once completed with that, we will then wrap up with Q&I.
And evaluations.
And, excuse me, and evaluations. Okay. I'm gonna bring my portable board over here with me. So, let's do our quality improvement. What went well today?
The space.
Sorry?
The space.
The space.
Temperature and light.
Temperature and light.
Mm-hmm.
The company. Great.
Okay, thank you, Abby. The space.
Yeah.
And Debbie,
It's a good company.
good company. Thank you.
I feel like we mixed up our seating arrangements a little bit. Like I usually sit across from Alex, but I actually sat with her today. It was different.
So mixed up our seating.
The temperature in the room.
Thank you.
Actually, I wear your sweatshirt in here.
Good temperature in the room.
Lunch
Thank you,
was
Lisa.
fantastic.
Oh, great lunch.
Great lunch.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
thank you again.
And we all sat together for lunch and talked. That was good.
Collaboration. Thank you, Alex. Marley.
That was Adriana.
That was it.
Thank you, Adriana.
Okay. It's okay. I'll make my voice deeper next time.
It's a team effort.
It's
You guys
teamwork
know
here.
my partial hearing. Anything else?
I will take people to the airport before class.
So that time management.
My time management. I was close.
That was amazing.
I feel like I'm usually on the dot today. I'm past.
I think it was nice having it at a different time of the day.
I learned
Time of
something
day?
today.
Yeah.
A change from the time of day.
Yes, yes, the change was nice.
Thank you, Lisa.
I learned something today. I'm amazing.
I'm on video here.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
the activities we did, I can actually see these being in my classroom, like something I work on with my co-teacher. Not really with my age group, but in the past I had done similar things, and if I had had the full steps, I can't imagine how much more successful I would have been. So like having these papers for me now is really cool.
So activities were being implemented,
Like
Practical.
being practiced in the classroom.
Yes.
Thank you, Marley.
I liked how we have our folder, like with our child, our fake child.
Vignette.
Vignette.
I like our fake child.
Real
I forgot the word. But just, and the fact that we're going to be going back to it is really cool because we can now implement it immediately while learning it.
Good.
I don't know how to-
Great. Thank you, Abby.
Because Lisa's like, oh, we already did this. You just brought out in the last activity, we kind of already did.
So then what needs improvement?
Always using this space. If possible.
If possible, maybe.
Always using the space. This space.
Well, and temperature control and nice lighting. This space was really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, like I didn't feel so confined. Like it was
Okay. Thank you, Marley. What else?
What's sarcasm from you?
Okay, so then we just have our evaluations to do, and then thank you so much for a great day. You guys have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.